Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the First Recovery Lab. We're just going to take a few seconds to let some more people join in. There will be people from all over the world. It's quite early in the US. Really excited to do this today. I'm excited to see everybody and meet everybody. If you're just tuning in, just pop into the chat. Let me know what your name is, where you're tuning in from. It's going to be a really good little workshop today, talking all about toxic relationships, why we allow ourselves to fall into those patterns, how we set ourselves up for those patterns, and more importantly, how we're going to break through them. It will work a little bit today, almost like one of my TikTok live coaching sessions. So we'll have everybody on mute, but if you have any questions at any point, just pop them into the chat. At the end, there will be a live Q&A with me. So any questions you've got over today's material, or maybe one of my articles that you've read, or a podcast, just let me know. We'll just take a few more minutes and then we're going to get right into it. You may, if you don't already have a pen and paper with you, that may be something you may want to jot down a couple of notes. Everybody who's a part of this today is going to get a copy of the presentation today. That will be emailed to you, and you'll also get a copy of this recording that you can listen to and take notes as you need to. Just gonna do a few more minutes. It's usually about 5 minutes. Usually takes. I'm always late, and I find that, you know, most of my clients are like that as well. If the music in the background or anything is too much as well, please let me know. And if there's any issues with the microphone, if you struggle to hear me, also let me know. Just pop into the chat, send me a little message, say, Evie, this is complete mess. I can't hear you. I can't see you. Whatever it is, let me know, and we will try to get that resolved as quickly as possible. All right, let's get into it then. Toxic relationships. Toxic relationships. I find that this is, I coach for a lot of different things. I coach people that are getting out of narcissistic families that need some help kind of recovering, redefining themselves. I work a lot with people who are in therapy or counseling currently because NLP is very action focused. So they may just want general self confidence boosting, mental health approaches, ways to regulate their nervous system, all that kind of stuff. But over and over again, people come back because they need help with toxic relationships. They need help with their toxic relationships. And that's because that touches on everything, right? Like literally, it's not just your romantic partner. Your toxic relationship is not just your romantic partner. It's also the relationship you have with your family. If you've got adult children as well, that relationship is very, very important. It can be very volatile. And it's also our relationship with ourselves. Our relationship with ourselves. It can also be the relationship we have with our career, the relationship we have with our ideas of success, our ideas of relationship, our core beliefs. So there's a lot we're talking about here when we talk about toxic relationships. And that's why it does touch on everybody. And that's why it is so important for us to not so much master these things, but just give ourselves the skills to be able to navigate the complexities of having a relationship at all of any kind. If we want a happy life, for most of us, that involves happy relationships. We want that. We need that. We're social, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why I wanted to start the Recovery Lab, which is going to be, we're doing this every month, doing this every single month. It'll be a different topic every month, but it's just another way that I wanted to kind of make this kind of help accessible for people, right? Because let's face it, most relationship coaching and mental health coaching, it's not accessible for everybody, but this is. So we're going to start today with these toxic relationships because I just want to give you guys some key foundations that will allow you to I'm not going to like put a guarantee on it and say this is going to fix everything in your life, right? Because that's ridiculous. But I want to give you some hope. I want to give you some guidance, and I want to give you the knowledge that will allow you to go out and create a strategy for yourself to improve these relationships. So we're going to do that by breaking into the why. Why do we even have toxic relationships? Because especially if you're on this call, then you're probably somebody who's read my work, or you've listened to the podcast, right? Or you follow me a lot on TikTok and you watch me there. And so you're kind of aware, like you understand bad relationships. But even then, you're probably still repeating a lot of bad relationships. You probably just keep going back to the same kinds of partners, or you keep falling into your own kinds of patterns of pushing people away or building up walls. So I want to help you break that down today so that you can really understand why we do this. Why does this happen? It's not really all your conscious fault, right? There's a lot of subconscious stuff at play. And then we're going to get into the how. How do we stop doing this, right? How we got the awareness. How do we just actually stop ourselves from settling for these relationships? So we'll just jump right into it. Basically, the way this is going to work is we'll talk about this for like 20 or 30 minutes, give or take. We'll see how it goes. And then after that, we'll do a live Q&A. So again, if you have any questions during this, you can either take a note and ask me during the Q&A, or you can just pop them into the chat and I'll be happy to answer them at the end. So first, we're just going to start with this why. Why are we doing this? Why do we do these toxic relationships? This manifests a lot of different ways, but when you boil everything down, it's three things. One, it's the psychological baselines that get set up for us. And this is a part of human development. It's a part of brain development, emotional development, cognitive development, all of it. It's all of your development. So that is not so much conscious choices you make, but this is a kind of programming that happens as you're growing up in early adolescence and early childhood. And then there's low emotional awareness, low awareness of self, low emotional intelligence. And last but not least, your own toxic behaviors. And that usually happens as a result of those baselines and that low awareness. And that kind of boils together to create what is essentially someone who is just coping, right? You deform these like defensive mechanisms, these coping mechanisms, and that's where your toxic reactions come into play, which brings more toxic relationships into your life. So we'll just get started here with baselines, which is absolutely fascinating. So baselines, they are these psychological norms that are created during childhood. Okay, so this starts early, really around ages 3 to 5 is when these baselines begin. And they're kind of the norm. Okay, it's what your brain comes to associate, your subconscious comes to associate as this is a normal environment. This is what we should seek. So between the ages of 3 to 5, you start to form these baselines. And these baselines are your understanding of everything. Relationships, yourself, your relationships with your parents, their relationships with each other, their relationships with the outside world. Okay, it's your core beliefs, your core understanding about yourself and everything else around you. They'll shift a little bit in early adolescence, but by the time you're a full-grown adult, right? So from the ages 25 on, your baselines are pretty set and you start reacting and acting within these baselines and you don't even necessarily realize it. So these baselines affect everything, absolutely everything, and especially your beliefs, right? And your self-esteem and your self-image. So let's do an example of these baselines, right? If you grew up in an abusive home and it was just chaos, dysfunction all the time, maybe mom was the only one there or dad was the only one there, or they were both there, but they were physically abusive to each other. They were screaming, they were yelling, maybe there was partners coming in and out, lots of infidelity, just chaos. As a child, when you grow up in that chaos, that's your whole world. That's it. That's all you have. And you come to see like, well, this is the world. This is normal. And as you grow up, that's your baseline. And your subconscious is always operating on that baseline. And your subconscious will always be saying that is the environment that we need to be in because that is normal. So as you become an adult, you pursue partners who can give you that environment because that's the environment that you got used to. That's your normal. You feel comfortable in that kind of negativity, that kind of hardship and dysfunction. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about baselines. And these baselines are the first real reason that we will gravitate towards these toxic, abusive, awful relationship. But here's the real kicker. My clients are always, so many of my clients that come to me, they're like, I just don't understand. Like I've read all the books, I've done coaching, I've done counseling, I've done therapy, and I just didn't see it. I was right in the middle of it, and now I can see it. But at the time I didn't see it. Why didn't I see it? It's because it's your baseline. It's your baseline. You felt totally normal in it. You weren't looking for anything to be wrong because, well, you certainly weren't looking for those things to be wrong because that's what you thought was normal. So this is the baseline, and this is kind of the first real reason that we fall into the toxic relationships. And then there's low self-awareness. If you've got rough baselines to begin with, it's very unlikely that you grow up naturally into this really strong sense of self-awareness, right? Because if you've got bad baselines, you probably grew up in a lot of dysfunction, and dysfunctional families, homes, relationships, whatever, don't generally encourage a lot of self-observation, soul seeking, figuring out who you are, how you feel, why you feel that way. And so you don't learn how to take inventory of self, you don't learn how to be present with self, and you definitely learn how to deny yourself. So that's where this low self-awareness comes from. And when we have low self-awareness, we got low self-esteem. We don't understand, we just react to things. And that's where emotional intelligence plays into. When we're not aware of self, we can't be aware of our emotions, which is the core of so much of what we do as humans building these relationships. Your emotional intelligence is an understanding of your emotions, right? It's an understanding of why your emotions work the way they do, but it's deeper than that, because you might understand that you're angry, right? You're like, oh, well, my partner just said this and it made me angry. But true emotional intelligence is then taking that a step back further and saying, okay, well, my partner said that, but that wasn't actually bad. But my anger is not actually rooted in this moment. This anger is actually because 20 years ago, I used to listen to my mom talk to my dad this way. And so I learned that this is okay. And so that's why I got angry at this. Do you see what I mean? It's a bigger picture, understanding of your emotions and how they motivate you. But then emotional intelligence takes that another step further. Emotional intelligence is also seeing those emotions in the people around you, right? Your romantic partners, your friends, your family, even strangers on the bus. You can see that they are angry. You understand why they are angry. You can see that big picture behind their anger. Maybe they are a hurt person. Maybe they had a mother that screamed and yelled at them, so now they're screaming and yelling on the bus, right? Maybe they're having a really hard life. It's empathy. When you really get to that plateau of emotional intelligence, you hit empathy. And when you are a truly strong, empathetic person who also has a strong baseline of self-esteem and relationship understandings, you pursue a higher caliber of partner. But when you're in that place of low self-awareness, you stay emotionally detached. You don't understand why you react to things, you just react. And then you get into reactive relationships. Now, there's also toxic behaviors, your own toxic behaviors. And I never see this really talked about in any coaching, therapy, counseling, none of the like influencer self-help stuff that you watch on or that you read online or that you watch on TV. None of that ever really talks about the fact that a lot of our bad relationships, our toxic relationships, are because we have our own toxic bad behaviors. Okay, the other people aren't the only ones being bad in the relationship. You are not responsible for anything that happens to you, right? So even if you end up in a relationship with an abuser, that's not your fault. But why did you end up there? Did you have really low self-esteem? Did you spend a lot of your life beating yourself up? That's a toxic behavior, right? If you're criticizing yourself, tearing yourself down and telling yourself, well, I deserve to be hit, I deserve these relationships, that's a toxic behavior. And a lot of these toxic behaviors that help us to build toxic relationships, attract toxic partners, it comes on the back of bad baselines, right? We don't know better. So we just react the way our parents reacted or the way our last partner treated us or whatever it is. We've got bad baselines, bad beliefs about ourselves and relationships. And then we've got the low emotional intelligence too. And that comes together and we start developing all these nasty kind of coping mechanisms. We start putting up walls. We create these push-pull dynamics in our partnerships, which are just not great. You get into cycles of like breaking up, and that's where your patterns build. We keep spinning through all these toxic relationships very often because we too are being toxic, whether we are being toxic to the other person or we're being toxic, abusive, corrosive, poisonous, damaging, self-destructive in here. Okay, toxic behaviors from yourself always figure into the toxic relationships that you're attracting and building everywhere else in your life. So hopefully that's pretty clear for you on the why of our relationships. We have these bad baselines, these lessons, these beliefs that get set up in our childhood. And then those are reinforced by low emotional intelligence, low self-awareness that stumbles us into bad relationships, where we reinforce again with our own toxic behaviors, our toxic reactions, our coping mechanisms, walls, shutdown, deactivating ourselves, emotionally detaching, whatever it is. That's the big kind of motivating force behind propelling ourselves into these toxic relationships and these toxic patterns. So what about the how then? Let's just go into the how. How do we stop this? How do we escape these patterns? We can't do this forever, right? We're miserable. That's why people have signed up for these calls. That's why you're here right now. You don't want to do this, whether it's a better relationship with yourself or it's a better relationship with friends, family, your children, your partner, whatever it is. We are the only ones that are going to get ourselves out of it. And we do that through, these are almost three processes by themselves. And the first one is confronting reality. Okay, taking off the rose-tinted glasses, seeing things as they are, not as we wished they were. And then we have to go inside, reset our baselines. Okay, that's where the kind of dark night of the soul comes into play. And then last but not least, we have to change our behaviors consciously. This is when we take the work and the knowledge and we turn it outward. We focus on outward for the outward action in our journey. So the first behind that, how, confronting reality. Okay, you've got to confront reality. You got to rip the Band-Aid off, be honest about what's going on, and just see things as they are. And this is what if you've read me a lot, then you know I say take off the rose-tinted glasses. Take it off. That narcissistic mother, she's not June Cleaver, okay? She's a narcissistic mother, and she's never going to be different. That is what she is. You've got to accept it. You've got to accept the fact that she's never going to be there for you in the way that you want her to be there. She is never going to show up the way you want to. The same thing with an abusive, narcissistic partner. It's not ever going to be what you want it to be. It's not. And you can't force that, and you can't change that. You got to rip the Band-Aid off, and it's going to hurt. It's gonna really hurt really bad. But admit it. Admit these hard truths. This is a period of education and not action. I always try to reiterate this. Everyone just wants to speed right into just give me the 3 steps that will make me feel better. And it's like, well, I can do that, but you've got to start on the ground level, okay? And before you can change anything, you have to see it as it is. You have to lay down the map before you can chart your course. So this is a time of education. You want to learn everything you can about your history, your beliefs, what beliefs are limiting you, how they're limiting you, what you want from yourself, what you want your life to look like, what you want it to feel like, all of that, okay? You're just digging into discovery at this point. And this is really often ignited, and this is the stage at which you would get into therapy, okay? You would talk to a counselor. If you're dealing with anxiety and PTSD, it might even be that you need medication through this period, because this can be very painful when you understand that, oh, I'm an angry person because anger was the only emotion allowed in my household, right, as a kid. So I lash out and treat everyone with anger. When you break into those memories, it's painful. So I always say this might be the point at which you want to be working with someone who's got a lot of experience with trauma or the process in general, and you'll want to spend this time doing a lot of reading and a lot of journaling. Okay, this is not heavy lifting. This is just expanding your mind. Next, you're going to reset your baselines. You're going to reset your baselines. This is the dark night of the soul. And this part sucks. There's no other way to say that. This part is awful. It sucks. This is when you go interior. This is the interior part of your journey, of the action. So you've got to now look at all those beliefs, okay? Those hangups, those issues, those bad relationships, those bad memories, all of the things that have turned into your overall view of whatever relationship it is you're trying to fix. And you got to start resetting it. You got to start resetting it. This happens in layers, and you need to do it one belief at a time. So let's say that one of the beliefs you encounter is that I believe I'm not worthy of a good relationship because I did not have a good relationship with my mother. And if my mother couldn't love me, then who else is going to love me, right? That's a bad belief. And while you're digging around, you might also find out that you have beliefs about your father, or you might have beliefs about your career, whatever it is. You are not confronting these all at one time. That's just silly. You're setting yourself up for failure. So one belief at a time. If you're having issues with your mother, you got to get through that first. You got to wade through that mess, and then you can confront the next thing. So you'll want to prioritize here as well when you're resetting these baselines. What is the biggest pressing issue? What is the biggest block to you getting the relationships that you want, the relationships that you deserve? Okay, you need to keep this in mind when you're resetting your baselines. All of that feel-good stuff that you envision in your mind, a partner who like cooks Christmas dinner, or whatever it is, all of that you deserve. You deserve that partner. You don't have to settle for a crappier one. You deserve that. You deserve that career. You deserve that family relationship. You deserve that peace. Okay, and resetting your baselines all has to start with that knowledge. You deserve to be happy, loved, and at peace. That's just that was guaranteed to you from the second you came out of the womb. Okay, so operate with that knowledge as you break through these layers and start to face your beliefs. And then last but not least, that is when we can start the outward action, the outward work, which is what a lot of us are really, really antsy to jump into, right? We usually, my clients come to me and they like instantly, they're like, you just tell me what to say to her. Just tell me what to say to her so she'll stop yelling at me, or just tell me what to say to her so that I don't have to, whatever. You can't change the outward until you change the inward, right? The inside has to be changed before the outside can be changed. It's like, I talk a lot about, we all obviously know that there needs to be massive shifts in our world, our society, our reality, all of that, our politics, everything. But we can't change that until we change ourselves, until on an individual level, we all become more compassionate, more whole, more healed, more understanding and empathetic of one another. Okay. And once we've done that work, which is resetting your baselines, we can start to shift our outward relationships. This is the period of external action, external change. This is when you start behaving differently. Okay. This is when you start reacting differently. This is the point at which, you know, if someone says, I don't want to do that, when it's something that you really need help with, you can say, okay, absolutely, totally understand. I wish you would help me. That hurts my feelings, but you know, that's your journey. And then you can readjust in understanding and compassion and civility and love. This is also the point at which you start having hard conversations. Okay, this is the most challenging part, and that's why it's last. Because this part, the conscious shift, this might involve you shedding relationships that you thought you highly valued. Okay, you might have to break up with somebody. You might have to quit a job. You might have to cut a toxic family member off. Okay, there's a lot of different external actions we could take, and it all depends on what your situation is. But this is all about outwardly changing your world and outwardly changing the way that you react to it and that you interact with it. Because you can't change the people, but you can absolutely change what you let in and what you let out. This is also a good time to do coaching. I should also point that out as well. Coaching is not counseling. It is not therapy. Coaching is action-based. Every form of coaching. If you found a good coach, They should be 100% focused on action. It's not therapy, but it should work really well with therapy, or once you've kind of aged out of therapy, as it were, and you're ready to take more practical steps. So during this period of conscious shifting, that is when it's a good time to start searching for a coach. So what does this mean for you then? What does all of this mean then about toxic relationships? Well, all of this means that you need to stop settling for the narrative that that's as good as it gets, that you've got to accept less, or that, you've just got to put up with a man who treats you a certain way, or who just does less than you, or, a wife who doesn't pull her weight, whatever it is. You got to stop playing that game and like accepting that story that the world tells us, that this is just what relationships are. They're dramatic, they're painful, they're this, they're that. They're not. And the hard truth that no one ever likes, this is always a really a really interesting one for my clients. It's that your relationships, right, as a whole, we put all this emphasis on them and we pretend that they are the most important thing in the world, but the fact of the matter is they will destroy your life if you put that much emphasis on them, right? They will destroy your life, especially if you're stuck in these loops of toxic behavior. So at some point, you've got to make the hard decisions to do things differently, and you've got to stop playing by all the old rules that have landed you where you're at. You've got to take action. You've got to do things differently. And you've got to know that, like, I don't deserve this. Yeah, there's not going to be a white knight riding in who's just going to pay off your house note and all your bills and make your life perfect. That is not what a partnership is. It's not what a partnership is. A partnership is just two people who come together to build a mutually shared world, even while they build their own individual worlds. Okay? You've got to completely shift the way you see relationships, the way you see yourself, the way you see yourself interacting with the world around you. And you've got to become your own advocate. You've got to become your own advocate and understand that relationships are a skill. 150%. Building a relationship with another person is a skill. None of us got told that. We certainly didn't get taught any of those skills. Really, we just most of us got thrown into, the schoolyard with everybody else, and that's how we learned the rules, right? But the fact is, relationship building is a skill. Communication is a skill. Building trust is a skill. Supporting someone is a skill. Navigating conflict is a skill. And you have to make the choice to be your own advocate and learn these skills, because really no one's going to teach it to you. I can get online and I can write all day long and I can do these talks and I can do podcasts and I can tell you stuff, but you're the only person that's going to absorb it. You're the only person that's going to act on it. And what I would really like people to keep in mind, because I'm always on the soapbox about accessibility, right? I don't think mental health and coaching and all that stuff is accessible. Okay? It's not always accessible. You have to work extra hard in this day and age to get the help you need. Whether it's mental health, emotional health, relationship health, you've got to take charge and do whatever has to be done to get those skills for yourself. Period. End of. You've got to learn it, do it. Basically, give yourself a master's degree, because that's where we're at. Okay? A lot of this is now being gate kept behind walls that people can't afford to climb right now. So become your own advocate. Stop sitting in the mess and go, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to learn how to do it better so that I can attract better partners, or I can improve my relationship with my family, or I can stop feeling this way about myself. Okay? Because that then spreads into a lot of other stuff. Does it all make sense? Cool. Are there any questions? We can do some Q&As, answer any questions that you've got. There's a little chat box just there at the bottom. If you have any questions, just type it right there and I'd be happy to answer it for you. It was a lot to cover. It was a lot of talking. It was very, very fast. I will also be doing a really great giveaway. I'm giving away tons of stuff. So everyone who has registered for Recovery Lab today, This upcoming week, I will be giving away a half scholarship to one of my 8-week private coaching programs. Okay, so that's a $2,200 value by itself. Doing one half scholarship to my program. I'm also going to be giving away 5 group memberships. I am relaunching the growth group. We are getting away from Facebook. We are moving away from Facebook. So if you want to join the all new growth group, or you've been curious about that, 5 of you are going to win 2 months free membership to the growth group. I'm also going to be giving away a few ebooks, and I'm going to be giving away one Radical Road narcissistic recovery coaching package, right? This is my micro coaching package, which you've probably seen on my website. It's all digital. It's all digital, all email. And this is perfect for anyone who has social anxiety. Maybe you just got out of a really abusive relationship and you're just kind of getting your bearings and you're not really ready for one-on-one coaching. You're not at that point in your life, but you are ready to do something, right? You want to feel better. You want someone who sees and has done what you're doing. And that's why I developed the micro coaching program. So that's 4 weeks and it's delivered via email. So each week you get a module and a video from me, and you will cover that for a week. The next week you'll get a new one. At the end of the 4 weeks, you get the opportunity for a 40-minute one-on-one session with me, just like this over Zoom, except it'll be just you and me. We'll work on a strategy for you to create narcissistic-free relationships in future moving forward. If you want to learn more about that, you can find that at therealebjohnson.com. Just click on shop, and you'll see both of my micro coaching packages there, because it's just sometimes a better option for people. People are nervous. We're living in a strange time. Everybody is stressed to the brink. So this is just a bit more flexible. If work's got you on the edge, or you're just not ready to sit and talk to me face to face, then this is a great thing to try. I also recommend it for anyone who is interested in private coaching, because that is a major commitment, right? It's a major investment. You've got to sit down with me for 8 weeks every week, and I hold your feet to the flames, right? Like, I don't like this bounce around, reschedule stuff. We don't do that. NLP does not work well that way, because a lot of these modules are interlocking. So if you're not ready for that kind of intense structure yet, you don't really know what coaching's all about, try one of these micro coaching programs. Okay, they're an excellent way just to get started and get what you need. I also have my ebooks available. You can join Medium. I think you still get, I don't know what's going on with Medium these days, who knows, but you can definitely get stuff there. I try to provide as much free help as you can, because here's the fact. We're on the internet. You do not need, not everybody has 10 grand to spend on this or that, or coaching, or packages, or master classes, or whatever. So you have to take what you can get for free. And all good coaches, all good therapists, counselors on the internet, they're providing that in some way. Okay, so don't feel pressured to think, I never pressure my clients. Like, I understand, I was raised dirt poor. Okay, so I get it. It's just not in everybody's bracket. So that's why I'm providing things like this workshop. I've got articles on the website. You can also visit me over on Medium. I post a new article on Medium every day, and Practical Growth Podcast is back for season 2. Season 2 is currently live. So that's every Tuesday. There's a new episode, and that's more free help. It's free. You can go and listen to it on Apple. You can listen to it on Spotify, Google, whatever. It's everywhere. And you can get more help. We'll be doing the upcoming episode. I'm really excited about it, because we're actually doing, we're going to be talking about nervous system regulation, which is very, very close to my heart, because I have PTSD, diagnosed PTSD, and just put it to you this way. I can't take anxiety medicines or painkillers or anything like that. I don't like feeling out of control, checked out, not able to show up to do my work the way it needs to be done. So I have had to really take charge of my own nervous system and make things happen for myself. And that's what we're going to be talking about this upcoming Tuesday in the Practical Growth Podcast. Tips, tricks, tests what works, what doesn't, what's a scam, what's a TikTok trend. We'll be talking about all of that on Tuesday, including my favorite, which is vagus nerve icing, which is absolutely life-changing. So all that blathering was basically just to say, listen, if you want to work with me, great. If you can't, I have tons of free stuff out there that you can, free or even low cost, that you can jump on to get the help that you need to build these relationship skills, whether you're trying to navigate conflict or you're trying to improve the quality of partners that you attract, or you want to change your baselines, deal with childhood trauma. Whatever it is, you can find that. Just head over to therealebjohnson.com or visit me on Medium at eb-johnson.com. So do we have any more questions? I should let you know that I am extremely active on TikTok, and I am doing live TikTok coaching, and that's going to be starting every week. So I think we're going to be doing it twice a week. I'll have to check with my coordinator to see what those dates are that we've got scheduled. I think it's twice a week. It's 8:30 p.m. UK time. I'll be doing live coaching on TikTok, which is super, super fun. You can come in, interact with me. We'll be talking narcissists, toxic relationships, all that good, juicy stuff. So it's a great way to ask me questions. Let's say you leave here and it's a couple days later, you're going through the presentation and you think, oh, I wonder like this about a baseline. Come and follow me on TikTok. You can send me a message there. Also, you can join in one of these lives and just say, hey, I was in Recovery Lab. What about this? And we'll get it taken care of. All right. All right. If you have any more questions, then feel free to email me as well. You can head over to that website just there, therealebjohnson.com, and hit contact. Send me your question, and I'll be happy to respond. I'm also on all the social media. So thank you so much for everybody that came out today. I hope you enjoyed this recording. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's given you a bit of perspective or a little bit of optimism, a little bit of hope. All right. I hope you all enjoy your weekend. We're going to stop a little bit early here, but don't worry, because we'll be back next month with a really, really exciting new recovery lab. So thank you so much for being here. I will catch you next month. Talk soon. Bye-bye.